Okay, Dosh. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I should probably push the button that does that. There we go. Hey, look, we got a monitor on the screen. All right. First off, it is Monday, April 24th, 2017. Second off, I apologize if it's going to be a slow stream or I don't know really what we're working on. I've had a very long weekend and I'm very tired, I guess. So, the normal stuff applies. Feel free to ask questions. We'll be more than happy to try to help out as we can. If not, we'll be working on our live stream MMO project. I think the smart thing to do, since I don't remember, is to go ahead and let's run through what we have so far. So anyone who's new can recap, plus people who forgot, like me, can try to remember. The MMO slice is just, we're trying to just make a small little MMO, kind of like the starting area in any traditional game, just to learn some networking, how systems work together, a little bit of JavaScript and things like that. Just, try to actually put some stuff together. As it stands now, we have it where we have a login that works properly, so we can fail our login and it'll tell us. Really, obviously, it's just a debug message right now, but it'll tell us. We can register a new character if we want. We can log in with an existing character, and it will go ahead and actually pull the data off of a node database server. Now, my guess is I didn't build this out since we last used it, so let's build this out to be safe, because it just complained and didn't work properly. So let's build this out. That's probably the first thing we should have done anyways. And so hello everyone in chat. Hello Headclot and Harry, Miguel and Cheryl. Hopefully everyone has had a good weekend and is continuing to have a good start of their week. If this thing fails to work properly when we start this up, then I'm going to just probably give up permanently, because we've had the weirdest luck with this stuff so far. It should work fine. It did work fine. Let's hope it does. So let me go ahead and restart the dedicated Unreal server. We will try this again. There we go. Okay, it was just a disconnect error. With dedicated servers, if they detect that something's different on the client, they refuse the client, is how it works. So it prevents someone, for example, from taking like the source code, modifying it for their use, and then playing on your dedicated server. We just didn't have a properly updated version is all. So our character can join the game. He's got a little status thingy. He's got actual stats that work properly. Well, that show up properly, I should say. All that stuff's pulled from our database. You can see our dedicated server here. We have some unique session IDs to identify the player. All this information is our return from our database, which is our Mongo database running through Node. So we're actually getting stuff remotely. Nothing saved inside of Unreal itself. We have monsters we can target. We actually worked on last week, got a little display so we can see who we're attacking with a little wolfie thingy. Our hit points, we set these things up in screen space so that way they look nice and clean. We'll clean that up at some point to hide them, but for now I'm not worried about it. We can attack them. Their life will go down here. Life will go down here. They can die. The server gets all the information with the update for, see, we gave them 10 coins with no loot. So basic looting's in place. And then the last thing we ended up was making some of our variables rep notify. So that way, for example, if I attack this wolf, you can see we have 140 coins. And then when it dies, it shows 150. So we actually know when things happen and we can update things in real time appropriately. So we're actually starting to get something working kind of normal. And I'm glad everyone had a good weekend. I don't know what we're going to work on. I'm hoping something simple, because like I said, my brain is frazzled. I was up till 4 o'clock on Saturday morning, because we had a Magic pre-release tournament with me and the family. A couple hours of sleep, worked in Unreal, because I do my videos. If anyone was hanging out on Saturday afternoon my time, they may have seen I went live accidentally, because I hit the wrong button. I was so tired. And then stayed up till 5 o'clock with work on Sunday morning, a couple hours, came back on Sunday, did a couple more work. Then we found a kitten last night, and we've been working on taking care of that, and it's just been a busy weekend. But I get to play with fun stuff. So I'm wondering what else we should work on. Technically, we have a loot system in place. But right now, I'm only giving out coin. Well, technically, I'm giving out all the loot as well. But on the server side, whoops, that was not what we wanted to do. We are just accepting the coins right now. We have a stub in place for the actual loot. I'm wondering if we should care about that. Maybe, maybe not. I'm thinking we won't work on loot. I want to get actually maybe some NPCs in place would be kind of cool. Yeah, maybe we'll work on NPCs. We can work on the inventory later. Maybe we'll work on NPCs this week and try to get our quest NPCs and our lore NPCs, because we have 3 of them, and then our merchant NPCs. And getting our merchant NPCs and our quest NPCs are going to all tie into getting our inventory working in our loot system. So I think working on NPCs might be smart. Let's see. Hi, Matthew. Got a big doubt. Learning Unreal Engine takes a long time. Everything takes a long time. So let's just jump past that hurdle. But what if, for example, Naughty Dog hires you? They have their own game engine, so I need to learn it from zero. How is that engine called? Okay, a couple things. Unreal Engine is one of many engines out there. There's like the Snowdrift engine, I think it's called, which is Ubisoft's engine. You've got the ID Tech engine, and you've got Unity. You have some companies that have internal engines that are for their games. You have some of them that have internal engines for projects specifically, like, for example, the Warcraft engine for World of Warcraft is probably separate than the StarCraft engine, and I know it's separate than Hearthstone because Hearthstone uses Unity, for example. Squaresoft, for example, has their own in-game engine that was like Crystal or something like that they used for Final Fantasy 15, but they're moving over to Unreal Engine, for example. Basically, there's no right answer and no right engine and no one engine. They all rely on specific skill sets, an art skill set or game design or programming or lore, and you just adapt to the engine if you're hired in for that. Your question kind of is loaded because you're saying, what if Example hires me, but I need to learn their engine? If Naughty Dog hires you, that means you have the skills they require to do what they want you to do, regardless of the engine you'll be using. So if you come in as an artist, the engine's probably not going to matter much. They'll have an import pipeline. If they hire you in as a programmer, that means you have some form of experience, maybe C++, C#, JavaScript, Lua, something they're looking for the programming stuff. So it's going to work for what they need you for. So it's a loaded question there in terms of you're not going to get hired in at Naughty Dog unless you know what you're doing. So they're not going to expect you to not know they're not going to expect you to learn everything from scratch over a year because they're not going to hire you at that point. That's probably not a good investment. As for the actual answer, in terms of learning an engine, everything's going to take time. Learning Unreal Engine is going to be beneficial. For example, learning Unreal Engine gives you the basics of how an engine works, and the ticks, and the flows, and the component-based system, the import pipeline, the animation system. Blueprint is a basic programming system. If you use C++, it's C++. It's a programming language. It's still going to teach you the basics. So swapping from Unreal to, say, Frostbite or ID Tech or Rage Engine or Cry Engine or Unity, you're still going to have animations, and you're going to have your art pipeline, you're going to have your coding language, whatever it is, a component entity system. So you'll have your basic understanding, and then you just need to learn the syntax. And that technically is all programming is. Once you learn how programming works, every language is just simply different by their syntax. Yes, there's more specific things, but if you get down to the nitty-gritty, JavaScript, C#, C++, the primary difference is the syntax on getting stuff done. They're still going to have a loop. They're still going to have variables. They're still going to have, functions or methods and properties. They're just going to be called different things or implemented different ways, but still the same basics. Stefan, is there a way to spawn a lot of actors on one location? Sure, you just spawn a lot of them. And then make, after that, one explosion in the middle. And then move them all in a round. You can spawn a bunch of actors. You can spawn a particle effect for the explosion, probably. And then you just do an impulse blast out. Or you apply radial damage and have it use force. So, for example, let's see. So let's load up our playground. Let's see if we can do something very simple for that. In terms of moving them all around, do you mean like physics, or you want them to do something specific? Physics should be fairly easy. Something specific probably isn't that hard. You just give them a command, hey, do something, and if you have it set up, they should all do something. I'm going to assume physics. You can spawn a lot of whatever you want, wherever you want. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I don't really... Okay, seriously, did I just... Oh, dang it. That was not the intention, you stupid thing. Okay. So, physics explosion... I mean, as a matter of fact, you have, if you were to do, it's third person, right? Oh, it's not in the third person. I think it's in the, no, it's in their starter. Here we go, starter content. Is what I was looking for. Zelati, there's some things that are unique to the engine. Okay. Probably, maybe there's specific systems like their particle system. So let's go with that. So how do I learn them if it's not a public engine? Well, when you're hired in, you'll learn them. That's part of the training process for being an employee. You're not going to be hired in unless they can know you know the basics. So if your goal is to work at a company that has, for example, a proprietary engine, let's say it's Naughty Dog or Rockstar, and your goal is to work there, you need to figure out what your discipline is, learn that discipline, and then apply for the job. So if your discipline is art, you learn Maya, Max, you learn creating art. If your discipline is programming, you learn programming. C#, C++, JavaScript, Lua, probably Java, Python, you learn programming. Like I said, the basics of programming are the same. So if they use... Game Maker, and it uses the Game Maker, I think it's called, I can't remember what the Game Maker code is called, then you're going to simply learn how it uses variables and how it does stuff as part of your training process. The key is you need to learn your discipline properly. That would probably be the biggest thing. Okay, that's what I was trying to do. So, okay, new level, basic. We'll save out the new level. Where's my content? Physics explosion. Apparently I can't find it. Okay, so physics explosion. Let's make a new blueprint, and we'll call this one BP spawn stuff. We'll make this really stupid to start off with, and we'll do a new blueprint, and this will be blueprint stuff to spawn. So in this case, we could do, for example, a static mesh, and we'll make it a cube. So now all we have is literally a cube that we want to spawn. And our blueprint spawner could be begin play, and we'll just spawn actor. We're just gonna make it really simple. Split this so it spawns it in the middle. Let's move it up a little bit. So probably 50 is probably enough, but we'll have to find out here in a second. Object. Spawn. What? Yeah, stuff to spawn. That's what I call it. Okay. So here's my spawner. Here's my character. We'll hit play. And there we go. There's a box. My box is definitely not in the correct spot. What do we think? 75 up? is it going to be 100? Okay, 75 up. Looks like it'll be perfectly fine. It's because our box is not, I mean, our floor is not at 0. Well, it is technically at 0. Well, yeah, I guess it's not. It's at 0, 0, 20. Let's set it to 0. There we go, which means that 50 should work this time. There we go. That should work. Let's turn our lighting to movable so we don't have that retarded issue. There we go. Okay, cool. Let's see. Nothing. You haven't missed anything. 8 shots. Stefan's asking about making stuff explode. So we could do something simple like for each loop. Not for each loop, for loop. You could do just a simple 1 to 20, for example. And we could just loop through 20 times and spawn 20 boxes. Now, there's a couple things here. Well, first of all, let's go back to here. There are 20 boxes, but we don't really have any physics set up properly, and they're kind of all spawning wherever they want. So you'd have to handle how you want them to spawn. So that's something to think about. So let's see. Let's find our box. Simulate physics. There we go. Now this should that should be an issue because of the fact they're all spawning in the same point. So that's kind of going to be a problem. So that is something to think about. Now we could spawn them like in an area, or we could spawn them and then turn on physics. The biggest problem is when you're using physics, you're going to have a problem with anything overlapping from the start. That is an issue. But there's no reason, for example, here's our stuff to spawn. If this was something you had as like a predetermined setup, there's no reason you couldn't do something, for example, whoops. No, I don't. Oh, no, I need this to be a scene route. Yeah, that way they're not all. There we go. Then I can, whoops, stop. There's no reason you couldn't do something like this, for example, and you set up your spawning however you want it. You design basically your explosion pattern. You know, so you set some debris up or whatever you want. And I'm doing this on purpose so that way stuff doesn't, there we go. So if we hit play, okay. First of all, we should probably only spawn one of these because that's going to cause some major headache. There we go. So you have something like that. So we end up with our physics set up like we want. So you could spawn, so you can spawn them like this, so predetermined, or you spawn them in an area, and that would be simply using your loops, offsetting things based on your loops. So you use like 2 loops, and then spawn things like, you know, spawn it here, 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 next loop here, 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 next loop here, 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 and then delete the middle one or keep the middle one or whatever you want. And middle one would probably be fine. So we'll do it this way, and then we'll work on trying to get like a dynamic spawner. So let's say we spawn something in, and then let's see, spawn. Let's delay 2 seconds, and then we'll spawn particle. So we'll spawn an emitter at location. It's going to be in the middle here. Here's a particle for an explosion. That sounds good to me. Let's see how that looks. There. So we got like a little explosion, and then you could just do an impulse at location. No, that's not an impulse. We want, I don't think it's radial force. That's the radial force component. Apply radial damage is probably what we want. I think, I want to say this will work. I can't remember if radial damage does force or not. I guess we'll find out. I honestly can't remember. Okay, so it's not radial force. It's not impulse. We want, it's radius. Let's see, I'm picking up coins in the game, and I want every coin I pick up to be teleported in some area above, and then make them go boom all over the place. Other than displaying a sphere, what is the difference between a scene and a default scene route? The difference is kind of like what Honey is saying. It's the same thing, just a different name. And that default scene route shows that stupid sphere. Well, it's not, okay, so let's create a, oh, here's our default scene route. And then if we add a scene, if you look at them on the right, they're pretty much identical. The only reason this one's got the rotation and scale because it's a child. your biggest difference between these two things is technically the fact that the default comes with a sphere attached. You can see it in the world. They didn't technically create two things. They technically subclassed the scene root to make it the default scene root, made that sphere as part of it so you can physically see it in the scene, and then made that as the default when you make a new item. So, I mean, it's, yeah. Like Durs was saying, default scene root is a scene component. It's basically just a child of a scene component, but with that extra blobby ball. And someone thought it was important enough to have that in there so that way you always knew you had a reference. Because, like, for example, here is my spawn stuff thingy, and if I didn't have the default scene root, I wouldn't even know where it was in the world. It's just kind of like an indicator. It's kind of like how your lights have their little icon. So that's just the icon for a default scene root is all it is. Someone decided it was a good idea. For all intents and purposes, they're both scene roots. You got to keep in mind, they didn't technically do the same thing twice. They just created the scene root, probably made the default scene root as a child so that none of the effort really had to go into it. And then just have when the default scene root is on there, it spawns in that default, you know, hidden sphere-y thingy of Doom. Okay, so let me figure out, because it's not a friggin' impulse. Radial pulse. What's it called? Radial force. Yeah, okay, but I just want to apply radial force. Do I have to apply radial force as part of the component? Because that's not what I want. I hope I don't have to do that. Yeah, a force component. That's not what I want to do, darn it. Because, I mean, adding impulse probably isn't going to give us what we want, because impulse is technically a directed burst. Yep, and like Durzo was saying, I always replace the stupid sphere with an empty scene component as well. That's like the first thing I do is hit add component scene, I type in root and I replace it. Could you help me with the problem I posted on Real Answer Hub? The question is called Problems with Foliage Distant Culling. I have not used foliage enough. I don't think I could, Zelati. I will try to take a look at it when we get done with this first thing. See, I think we might have to do radial force, because radial damage doesn't do it. Well, let's do add impulse, but I don't think add impulse is going to give us what we want. Oh, there's a friggin' radial impulse node. Seriously? See what happens when I don't pay attention? Oh, what do you mean self? Oh, because it targets a perimeter. It targets. Oh, crap. There's nothing spawned in here. Maybe you... Oh, bloop. Let's try that. Definitely not what we were aiming for. Definitely not what I wanted. Yeah, see the... Damn it. No, you're doing fine in terms of... Let's just hit buttons and see what happens. Woo! Okay, so technically that worked. I just didn't have enough impulse. The problem was this is the problem with the radial stuff. I think that's why we need to add the force component. So let's see. Let's see what happens if we add a radial force component. Let's try some stuff. I don't play with force much, but I'm curious. Can this affect everything around us? Is that how it works? Let's do a bunch of big numbers because big numbers are fun. And then so how do we make the radial force do something? Because I'm assuming it's not going to go off unless we do something, right? Let's see. Play. Go. Apply. Oh, of course. Makes it harder on me, doesn't it? Radial damage node with the super large force. See, I tried radial damage as the first thing, but maybe I didn't apply enough stuff. Whee! Try that. Let's disconnect my radial force. I thought radial damage would do it, but it didn't cooperate. Split. Yeah, see, radial, unless our stuff is, well, see, okay, so we also technically have these things as subcomponents. They still should be fine though, right? We just don't have them doing anything. Okay. The other option is radial force. Radial force. You know what doesn't help is this thing is showing me this little roundy part, but my numbers don't affect it. That's kind of silly. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, well, something certainly happened, but I'll tell you that is not my expected result. For having a large number, that was horrible. Oh, my radius is also, that's probably why it wasn't bigger. Let's see what happens. Whoa, crap. Okay, someone made numbers way too big there. I'm not gonna... Yeah, someone made numbers way too big. And of course now. Seriously. Didn't I literally just have this? Whoa, crap. So it's gonna it's affecting the player, which is easy enough. We just go, don't affect the player. There we go. Okay. So that's one way to do it. It looks like you could just spawn them in and have put a radial force component on it, and have the radial force fire out. So if we were to, for example, yeah, I mean that works. I would assume the radial imp. See, the problem is, okay, so okay, this is the problem with the impulses. Impulses basically require one thing it's going to apply impulse to. So you'd want to do something like this, which is our radial force. Yeah, I've played with these before. These things are super annoying. They basically interact with the weights is your biggest issue. So how much the item weighs, any gravity it has on it, and then any mass it has on it. And that basically determines how much force you need to apply to it. In terms of real world, comparisons, yeah. Good luck on that one. So like you can already see we have our 4 strength here, which is just like telling us basically how hard it hits. Well, this is how much it hits for, and then how hard it hits, I guess, basically, when it hits. Yeah. There's a node that applies force to all the actors inside its radius. It does before tokens find that node, yeah. So yeah, Stefan, yeah, do something like this. You can either spawn in a predetermined actor. So for example, we have, I told you guys it was a bad weekend. We have our stuff to spawn, which is, an item that has 8 of these cubes in it. If you wanted to do something more dynamic, then you would have to, because, oh my gosh. You might want to rethink about how you're planning on doing what you're trying to do. Maybe make it where it's more of an animation effect or something like that. Can you make the radial force negative? That is a very good question. I would assume no. I would assume you would just set it up for, in terms of your direction you'd want the impulse to fire off at, like that. Oh no, that worked. Okay, so your force strength can work as a negative. Well, there you go. There's something you learn every day. That's definitely interesting. The radial damage node does only work, well, the radial damage node works on anything that takes damage, but yes, the destructible meshes need damage in order to destruct. So that's probably what happened for you, Durso. Well, let's find out. Okay. Let's just keep adding zeros till we figure out this out. Yeah, it looks like your force is going to be your continual, and your impulse is how much the initial hit is. I think that's too many zeros. I guess we'll find out. Like if we push this here. Yeah, see? So there you go. So you'd probably want this to just fire off and destroy it. But our force is basically how much force is being emitted from here, and then our impulse strength is just basically how much it hits for initially. So Harry, yep, you're right on that one. And 8-shot, yeah, if you set your strength to negative, it basically applies a sucking instead of a blowing. So that's interesting. No, I have not played with physics much, so this was just a little bit of fun. Stefan, I do remember 2016 about grass burning and fire spreading. I'd still love to be able to do that when I get the time. It's just, it requires stuff I don't have the skill set with right now. There is a grass burning setup on the marketplace, is the only thing I can think of. Maybe someone else has something inside the forums they can help you with. But it requires, you basically have your stuff, like your grass, for example. And then you have to map your grass out into nodes. So, section 00, section 01, and things like that. And then once they're mapped out, then when you apply fire in one area, you spawn in your particle effect, or you start adjusting the fire on your grass. So you could use a material effect to make it look like it's burning. But you could spawn in your fire. And then based on that, you do checks every so often and you see what's around it, and you'd have to use the node system or the grid system effectively to see what's around it. And if there's something else around it, something that should catch on fire, then you can apply damage or heat to it, and eventually it'll catch on fire. I'm really bad with stuff like that, the grids and managing stuff in a mathematic way. I've done a game that was kind of like a Candy Crush game, and I was so bad at doing the math required that I just simply had each of my blocks for my, like a Candy Crush game, each of the tiles. I had the physical objects in the world, and I used raycasts and line traces to look for any other block that was around it and told it to do something. So rather than doing math, I just used a crap ton of line traces and talked to everybody as physical objects. Because I couldn't figure out the math. I'm not good at math. I wish I was. Burning grass isn't too bad of a calculation. So let's say, for example, this is our grid here. And let's say you have grass over every piece. This one starts burning. It's fine. It's good. It's fire. And then every half a second or a second, you could have it check and see what's around it. And these things are actual items that you're keeping reference to, such as on fire, not on fire, or even fire level. Let's say they're all fire levels, and that's just a variable between 0 and 1. Fire level 0 means it's not on fire, 1 means it's fully on fire. So half a second comes by, it checks its grids around us, it checks the next grids, this is fully engulfed in flames. So it's going to apply, 20 or 20% or something to the next thing. And then the next thing is going to say, okay, now I'm 20% on fire. And this one over here is starting to die out, or will die out in 30 seconds or something like that. And it continually checks, and you basically just start incrementing the things around it till they catch on fire. And once they catch on fire, they can start checking the things around it. And that's where my problem comes in. It's math and recursion, basically just checking the things around you and applying values. Because the actual value application isn't a big deal. Hey, are you around me? Yes. Are you on fire yet? No. Well, I'm hot, and I think you should be on fire soon. So here's a little bit of fire. You're going to heat up. So now it's at 20% chance of catching fire. And then it does it again, and it keeps repeating until it catches on fire. It catches on fire. Now it's on fire, so it can start applying itself to everyone else. When it catches on fire, maybe it applies a lifetime of a minute or something, where it'll stay alive for a minute, and then after the minute passes, you start telling it it's now 80% on fire, or 0% on fire, or it's dying, so you play whatever you want to get it to go to die, and then it dies, and then you replace, your grass foliage in that point, your mesh, with a nothing mesh. You just delete the mesh, basically. And in the meantime, for your actual fire-looking effect, if you want, you can just apply a material effect on the foliage and have it look like it's on fire, burning, embers and stuff like that. And the actual fire itself is just a particle. That's the part that can be kind of tricky if you have a lot of particles. That's smart programming and making sure that your particles are good. Now it's a lot more complicated than that, because if you have for example, a big area that could burn, then you probably want to do a lot of tricks to save memory, and that's when you start batching things together, and I don't have that skill set. Yeah, I really wish I could do it. There is a marketplace asset that looks really cool that does it. That's about all I can say. There is a really good, what was it called? What was the stupid game that, oh crap, Crisis, was it Crisis? No. Yeah, right. I'm trying to find the fire propagation. There's a really good post about fire propagation that someone posted, and I can't remember if it was for Crisis or not. Let me see if I can find the post. No, Far Cry. It was Far Cry is what it was. Far Cry fire propagation. Here we go. This is the link for anyone who's interested in it that you should refer to. This is by someone who worked on the fire propagation system in Far Cry 2. And he goes over a demo of it, and he tells you how it's set up. And he basically goes over in detail. And with a lot of the things that cover it. And you'll see, like here, GPU bound, CPU bound, testing groups. When you start getting to stuff like this, AABB groups and testing, it's math. It's way harder math than I have the ability. But yeah, this is a basic summary of kind of like what we were saying here. It starts firing here. It has a lifetime because of the hit points. And then you can see everything set up in a cell. And then as it starts burning, it applies to other things around it. They all have their hit points. So their lifetime, for example, you can, your grid has to take into account things like things that can't burn. This is how you might burn something that is not grass, for example. Wind. So for example, wind direction applies how much damage and how much it applies to things around it. Burning zones. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and it uses cells, and I don't have it. And then it even goes over optimization and LODs and stuff like that. But it is not it's not a super complicated system, but it's not a basic system. It is a system that will take some time to get working effectively, and I just don't have the math skill set for this stuff to do it properly. It's just not in my skill set right now. Okay, so let's save this stuff out. Let's go back to our MMO. Let's figure out where we put it. And maybe we should do our basic NPC. Let's see, that dude Henry. So many tutorials being 4.8 and UE being at 4.15, is that still good? Is there a better up-to-date third-party tutorial series? 4.8, the reason why most of them are at 4.8 is 4.8 is when they introduced some of their bigger changes. They introduced the new mannequin and a new animation system. Most tutorials written around 4.8 and after will still be fine right now. About the only thing you'll have an issue with is 4.15 introduced the new anim BP controller system. This right. Well, where'd it go? Wait, I need to actually pull up an animation, right? Nope. Where's it at? Oh, it's a blend tree. I'm talking about the blend tree, not the anim BP system. Here we go. Yeah, 4.15 introduced the new blend tree system right here. Blend tree. Yeah, blend tree. Blend tree? Idle tree. Blend space. There we go. I knew I'd get the word at some point. Blend space system. 4.15 introduced the new blend space system, which rather than everything being down here, you have just the display here and you have all the properties over here. So besides that, most of the tutorials from 4.8 and onward will still probably be at least, I would guess most of them are 90% still good. Some things might have moved slightly, but most things have not changed dramatically. Yeah, I just, wrong words on all these things. I've been going back and forth between Unity and Unreal Engine that my brain keeps addling. And then, yes, Ryan, I am definitely sick. I've had a horrible, I haven't had enough sleep. Yeah. So that's your biggest thing. So to answer your question, most up-to-date tutorials, the official Unreal stuff, if it gets too out of date, they will update it. Other than that, there's a lot of good people on YouTube who do tutorials, and there's a lot of stuff on the Learn tab on Unreal Engine where they do tutorials. So all of them will work perfectly fine. I wouldn't worry too much about it. So NPC system. How could we do an NPC system? That means we need our quest system. Well, maybe we'll just see if we can get someone in the world to react to us, to interact with us. Let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can do that. So let's make a new folder called NPCs because my organization is awesome on this project so far. We're going to grab our character, and I screwed up already, so that's lovely. I cleaned up the folders the other day, and I deleted the third-party character, our base character that we were using for like our player and our monsters, because we already have our player-based character and our monster-based character. Now, of course, I'm realizing it would have been helpful to have for our NPC-based character. But of course, you always learn after you delete stuff. The nice thing is we can delete our entire custom event graph. We can delete our player info, our current values, our base values. This is default stuff, our request. Yep, I'm going to get rid of everything. Last target. Yes, I know. Current weapon, current target. Yep. Auto attack timer, auto attack, session ID. And now we have our base character back. Obviously, I've broken some stuff. Oh, because I have functions. So we'll get rid of function. Yay, get rid of all the function. There we go. Okay. Now we've got our base character back again. Oh, yeah. Do I have a tutorial on data tables? You know what's funny about that? That's probably going to be this week, but we can do that now as well, because I like data tables. They're fun. I actually have on the to-do list data tables because I realized I forgot to do them. We can do a quick run over of data tables. I'm more than happy to work on this stuff other than the project. Like I said, it's been a weird day. I'll probably do a more in-depth one on data tables this week. That sounds like fun. Actually, yeah, because then I'd have to cover the data table and all the notes for it. Oh, that'll make my week super simple. So, struggling with them. What are you struggling with in regards to data tables? What can we try to clear up? And I'm technically using data tables in here, but the playground's probably a better place to do the data tables. So let's find playground and do that. You can't get the data out of them into blueprints. Okay, so let's do a basic walkthrough. If you don't mind, I will pretend I'm doing a data table. You know what? This is stupid. Let's close this down. Let's actually load up our example folder, and I'll pretend I'm doing the actual content for the recorded video. So that might make it easier. And I'll walk through creating one, and I'll walk through grabbing the information, displaying the information, and such. Shouldn't take very long here. We need to figure out what is a data table technically. So let's grab one of our existing blueprints, go into our graph, data table. So they're under library. So data tables are under library. So, because I need to organize things for my stuff. So library, a new folder, data table. There we go. Okay. So we have that in the correct spot. We need a HUD for our data table. So I'm going to steal a HUD from one of my other examples. So we'll throw this in here. We'll name this library data table. Okay, cool. And then we will library data table. Okay. So there's our that. So let's create a new data table. I'll probably cover in the video how to get data tables in from external places. So for example, Google Docs, CSV files and stuff. And then cover how to do a data table inside of here as well. So we'll make a data table if I can friggin' remember where they're at. There we go. Biggest thing with data tables is we need a structure. So let's create our structure first. So we'll have to do that. And we'll call this, what do we want? Data table struct. Yeah, that makes it easy. And we'll pretend this is a weapon for an RPG. So we'll slap a few variables in here. And we'll call this name and damage, durability, rarity. We'll go with that. Okay, we'll make rarity an integer. We'll make durability an integer. We'll make damage a float, and we'll make name a string. So now we have ourselves our structure for a data table. So we can do data table. We'll make sure it's a weapon data table struct. I should probably call that let's call this data table weapon structure. That way it's at least a little bit better named. And then we'll call this one, this calls our weapon. Weapon, can I spell weapon? There we go, data table. There we go. So this is our weapon data table. So we'll make ourselves a few new weapons here. Let's see, name, sword, damage 1.7, durability 5, and rarity 0. It's crap. Dagger, damage 0.6, durability really durable, and rarity is crap. And then we'll call this one longsword. This one's got to be 2.4. Durability is going to be we'll go 7, and we'll go to say 1 for rarity. Okay, cool. Now, one thing I like to do, there's a couple things. So you're having an issue getting data out of them in the blueprints. Generally we use one node. It's the get data table row, I think is what it is. We'll cover it once I always forget the name of it, but basically it's going to take in the row information and give you back the data. So there's a couple ways of keeping track of them, and this is kind of where setting up your data table and your structure comes in. More than likely, so let's jump into our example. That's probably the easiest way to go backwards, believe it or not. Okay, so we have get data table row names, and then we have get data table row. These are your two nodes that are basically going to get you your stuff. So in this case, get data table row, we give it the data table. This is what we use in order to get our data. So for example, you'll know this is my data from my data table. There you go. So 8shot says I've been making the row name the same as the item name. That's a very good way of approaching it. That was what I was going to mention. So you can either name your row name the same as your item name, if that's how you want to reference it. Or, for example, your row name could be an item ID. There's many different ways of doing that. I've found when I've been doing stuff, I duplicate stuff, which is stupid, but in the long run it works. Because you run into stuff like this. My name is Longsword. However, my row name is Longsword without the space. So that's technically going to run into a problem. So you always have the ability to add in like an ID or something like that you can use for matching. So for example, I'm going to go back into my structure and I'm going to make a new variable called ID. And it's going to be a string, and this will be the item ID. I'm going to go and put it up top because it makes it easier. Now it seems silly because your item ID may match the name, but for this stuff, it makes it easier. So if we go back to our data table, now, for example, the item ID can be sword, or it could be sword, or it could be whatever you want. One thing that makes this smarter is if you convert this into a name. So for example, we go back to our structure and we convert this into our name. Now our item ID, no matter what, uppercase, lowercase, we forget to accidentally, hit caps lock. Because this is a name variable type, capitalization and such doesn't matter. That's what's nice about it. So if you did something like this and you made sure your row names were always lowercase, of course it's not going to let me because it's stupid. No, you can't make the row name. Yeah, because this is a name is why. Never mind. Yeah, see, that's already a name. So that's not going to matter. So yeah, if you make your row name and your item ID both names, it makes things a little easier. Now, like I mentioned before, this seems stupid because we're basically duplicating stuff. But when you get to the point like this, you're not. Because you can't use spaces. And you might want this to be like, of doom. So you keep them different. So at this point in time, now all we need to do is know our item ID for this item, and then we can get the row name because the item ID and our row name are the same. So if in my character, let's say my character has, whoops, that was a graph, not a variable. So let's say we have a new variable, and this is his equipment. And we'll call this, what do we got? Names, and we'll make this an array. So this is an array of the equipment that this dude has. Let's see, the 8-shot. Is this why in Skyrim you load in objects using something like get item number? Probably, because they just have things in a database probably somewhere else that simply has a number for the ID. Because then you don't have to worry about collisions and stuff like that. You could technically have, for example, a long sword. This is something that EverQuest 1 did a lot. You have an item that, for example, is like a long sword. And then you have another item that's a long sword. Now, they both look the same. They both have the same name. However, internally, they're different item IDs because one's a quest item and one's not. Okay, so here's our equipment variable, which I lost down here. Okay, so let's say we added in like 2 different things in here. And we had like sword and long sword. So we have 3 different... This guy's got 3 different weapons because he's crazy. This is what I like doing because I think this is super simple doing it this way. You have the out row names, right? And this gives you an array of all of your row names. Now, if you happen to know what it is and it matched, it wouldn't be an issue. So, for example, you could do like, here's our equipment. You could get whatever you want and plug it into the row name. So that would be great, yeah. So you could do something like this. And if you had your actual... stuff set up properly, it wouldn't be an issue. I mean, there's lots of ways of going about doing this. Like I said, here's a simple one right here. If we did here, let's print this out. Let's see. Need a new map. I need to save the map. And this is going to be the, where did I put this? Library, data table map. First of all, by the way, before we get through any of this stuff, there's no right way to this. There are multiple ways of doing everything. So that is something to always keep in mind. This is just one of the ways I like doing it. We'll set this to UI only, and this is our data table. Okay, so this should, if I run it, yeah, data table. Okay, cool. So this is our little data table example. If we go into here, here's our construct. Here's the row that we're going to find. Out row. We'll break this apart. This will give us our data, and then we'll print string. That is not the print string node. I don't know how that happened. There we go. And then we'll just print out like the name. So here we go, sort. So we grabbed the equipment, and I have it set up right here, which is our sort, and it grabbed the first one from here, so sort, and it printed it out. This is useful if maybe you want to loop through everything so each of your items has an actual ID. But let's say you didn't. Let's say you just had an item name and you need to know where it was. By doing the row names, we're good, but let's say you didn't. Let's say, I'm trying to put this into words and it's failing miserably. Let me see if I can wire this up. Okay, so doing it this way helped us out because our item name, item ID, and our row name are the same. Let's say you didn't want to do that. You have this in order. This data table has 0, 1, 2. You have your different... these could technically be in order, if that makes sense. This is your first one, this is your second one, this is your third one. So if we were to make our item ID, for example, the number. So for example, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. This is kind of going along that row that we're talking about. Item ID 0, 1, and 2. This is where that other node comes in handy. Get the row names. And it gives us back an integer. And then we could do... Yeah, like I said, there's lots of weird ways of doing stuff. And I like doing stuff weirdly because why not? The key here is there's just different ways of doing stuff. There we go. Okay, so again, this one's really weird. It's kind of convoluted, but it allows us to have everything be in number format when it comes in. One thing that's nice about this is, for example, if you were doing this in a spreadsheet, you could have your item numbers populated automatically based on the row number. You could have an increment automatically. So your, oh, for frick's sake, I'll show you in a second. But if we do this, it should give us back sword as the name. If we did, for example, dagger, it should give us back, okay, apparently longsword of doom. Oh, because I need, it would help if I did the actual, whoops, stop it. I lost everything. Row names. Oh, because the row name is now, that's right, dagger. Nope, okay, so I broke something. Give me a sec to figure out what I broke. I know this works, because this is what I do in the other example. I just forgot what I was doing. I literally forgot what I was doing. Yeah, this should work, right? Did I really break something here? Do I have to go back to the other example to figure out what I did wrong? Okay, so the longsword and the dagger are now backwards. Did anyone? That is kind of trippy. Why are the longsword and the dagger backwards? Oh. Okay, where is our... Here we go. So let's go to our data tables that we're using in here. This is the way I set this up. I was trying to show you how I set it up. This is the data table I'm using. I'm getting from the equipment. Yeah. Weapon data table. Weapon data table. Yeah, I'm good. I'm getting from the... Oh, yeah. Nope, you're right. That's right. I'm a dum-dum. Thank you very much. You're right. Thank you for pointing out the dumbness there. I was grabbing it from our local equipment table. Yeah, that was me. Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Thank you very much there. Okay, so let's go back to my actual example, which I was trying to say. So this is the way I have the stuff set up inside of the live stream we're doing. I have the ID set to the row like I was talking about. So 0 is my dummy, wolf is my 1. And then when we actually spawn in our monsters, so here's our monster spawner, for example. This is what I use right here. So the monster that gets spawned in, so here's our spawnable monsters, for example. It's an array of monsters, the ID, and our this is what I was trying to show you. So in order to make things easier, all I need to know is the ID of the monster. I don't need to know its name. I don't need to know anything about it. All I need is the ID. And by using the get data table rows with that ID number and then feeding that into the monster table, these nodes allow me to just simply feed in an ID. This is what I was trying to show here and failing miserably because I forgot how to do it, apparently. And the fact that we don't have a number to feed in doesn't help either. Yeah. So it's more of like, so like here's the equipment, for example. So here's our, again, it all depends on how you set everything up. So like he has 0. Yeah. So it would be more in lines of something like, here, I'm trying to show a real use of this, and of course it's not going as planned. Let's turn this into a map, and we'll map a name to an integer, so something like that. There we go. Okay, there we go. So chest. Oh, that doesn't really help. So left hand. Here we go. Left hand has 0. Right hand has 1. So this is kind of what I was trying to show. You have equipment on your player, and you have an ID for the equipment, so left hand, right hand, whatever. These are your slots. And then you simply have the item ID. So this is the ID of the item in the left hand and the right hand. So in this case, if I wanted to find out what's in his left hand, I could grab the equipment, and I can type in find, and we're looking for what's in his left hand, and it's going to give me back the ID for what's in his left hand. So you can just feed that into grabbing the name and grabbing the data table rows. That's what I was trying to show. And he has a sword in the left hand. If I spelled left hand right, for the love of Pete. Yeah. You should probably learn to spell if you're going to do stuff like this, I've found out. Because apparently I'm having issues spelling. Stop it. There we go. As right hand, he has the dagger. So, obviously, when I actually do the video and try to show people how to do this stuff, I will properly have stuff working in the meantime. What you're seeing here is literally what I go through when I'm creating the examples and trying to get something coherent and understandable. It's generally about 90% nothing works right, and then 10%, oh, we finally got stuff working properly that we can easily show people. I still need to clean stuff up. So if we go back to the actual question, is you're having trouble with data tables, and you're trying to seem to get the data out of them into the blueprints. The key is you need the get data table row node. That is the node that gives you your stuff. In order to get your stuff, you need to put in the row name. You have a perfectly good way of doing it the way you did it. If your row name matches the item name, for example, and you're storing that item name somewhere, then you're good. That's a good way of doing it. So, for example, the character's equipment that he's carrying in this example, he could have a sword and a dagger and a chest piece. Those are perfectly good. As long as you have access to that stored somewhere, you simply put that into your row name and it comes out with your data. And then it comes out as your structure and you can do whatever you want with it. It works good. An issue, though, as you've noticed here, is if you get into something a little more complicated, for example, our Longsword of Doom, its row name might be Longsword, but maybe it's Longsword of Doom or something like that, or you get something even bigger, or, for example, you have localization. So this may have umlauts, or it may have the character, I think it may have characters that are not native to the language that you may be working on. So keeping your row name as simple as possible for me, I found, has made things easy, because your row name itself could simply be 0, for example. There's lots of super simple ways of keeping things. So like, you know, you could have row 0, and you could have row 1, and you could have row 2. And you can keep an ID. You could just keep it like that even, and you wouldn't even need an item ID at that point in time, and just pull everything out of the row because you already know it. So as long as your character, for example, has that ID somewhere, in this case 0 and 1, you just pull it straight out of here. You don't even need to do this stuff anymore. We just know that the row name is, you know, whoops, I probably shouldn't have deleted that. We can just skip like this whole get right here. And let's see, equipment right hand. And then we convert that over to a name because, of course, we can't. We got to convert to a string probably first. And then we got to convert to a name because why not? So you could do something like that even probably. Whoops, let's move over here. No, and that should get us, oh, well, we don't need that one anymore because it's not hooked up. You know, and that'll give us our dagger, or for example, our left hand has an ID of 0, and that should give us our sword. So that's another way of doing it. Yeah, I'll cover this stuff in more detail in the actual videos for this week. The key, though, again, I'll say that I usually try to say the key multiple times, but this is the node that gets your stuff. As long as you have a way of keeping track of your row name somehow that works for you, then it'll work perfectly fine. Let's see, Durzo, I'd have a display name instead of the struct. Good, that's what I've got. And keep the row name as the weapon name, such as long sword. Okay, but what do we do? And display name would contain a version of space of the thing that would be only shown. Okay, which is good. So let's say we had like Sword of Doom. What would we put for our row name? Would we do Sword of Doom? Or would it be like the Sword of Doom? Or would we just try to find something that works in terms of our row name that we as the designer would be reasonable for us? Basically sticking to some sort of a naming convention. Because let's say you have something weird like you have, you know, Kelthalos. That's super duper, but can you count on every time you put that in somewhere spelling it properly, especially if you give it to an intern? Kelthalos, bringer of doom. That's the only thing I'd worry about. Row names are great if you have simple stuff, but once you get to a possibility of convoluted stuff or high fantasy stuff, I mean, especially if you have like I said, you have the ticks or whatever the hell you want to call them, or you have umlauts, which I have no friggin' clue how to do, or you even have to worry about localization issues with stuff like that. And yes, the Excel document is definitely the way to go. So yeah, the Excel document is definitely the way to go. I have done that multiple times. I actually have one in here. Here is here's the one I used for the drag and drop example. And I put in, here's the ID and the row name, and I matched them up on purpose so that way I could just grab the ID and the row name together. So this is what I did for my skill system for drag and drop. And then yeah, skill name as whatever I feel like, and skill image as an image. And that's one thing that's cool about the CSV stuff, is you can actually map out to materials and textures inside of a CSV. This is what I generally try to go with, because for me it makes it easier because I try to create it in a CSV file, and I think of it as just like a database, and I try to keep things easy. And the nice thing about this is if we put macros in here, for example, or we filled out things, if I could even remember how to do this stuff properly. So let's say you wanted to add in like lasery laser, for example, and this is our laser, like that. If you had this set up where it auto-filled in the numbers, so you could do, for example, we could do 0 and 0, and then you could do, well, Control-C, Pretty sure this works, right? Nope, that's not it. I can't remember how to increment automatically. But if you were smart enough and you knew how to do it, you knew the proper thingy to make the numbers go in automatically. Yeah, I don't remember how to do it. But if you're smart, then it would be really easy to quickly move stuff, and you don't have to worry about renaming things in the wrong order and stuff like that. Bringing things in is super freaking simple. So let's go back with this example then. So you download it. You make sure it's a CSV file preferred. That's the easiest way to do it. So and then I'll put this in my folder. Where'd my friggin' folder go? I lost my folder. I like literally lost my folder. There we go. Okay, so I have a CSV file right here. And if we open this up, we'll find it right here. It's a CSV file. I should probably rename it also better. So I have a CSV file. Wait, click in the box in the lower right and drag it down. Oop, someone might help me. Let's see. So click in the box. Oh, that one. Oh, like that? Nope, that didn't work. That just copied. Can we do like this? This work? I think, okay, I think that, let's see if that works. Hold on, I'm curious now. Let's see if this works. And then we do this. All right, look at that. As long as you tell it you have an order, and then you can go like that. Cool. Thank you very much, 8Shot. That was helpful to know. So that's an example of really easy, because your IDs match your row numbers. A really easy way to insert stuff without having to worry about reordering and stuff like that. And then you also, since you just have things matched up with your IDs, so that's just an example. Okay, so we have a CSV file. If we just literally drag and drop it into here, it'll ask us, right? Literally, did we stop working like this? There we go. It took a while to do that. There. Okay, so if you literally drag and drop it, and it cooperates, then it asks you for which data table it matches. So import it as what you want. So by default, it's a data table, but it could be curved data. And then the structure type. So we're going to have an issue because my structure doesn't match. So let's set up our structure properly. So blueprint structure. And I'll need to do this anyways for the example, so there's nothing wrong with this. Table, data table, skills. Struct. There we go. Okay. So I'm pretty sure I have 3 values, right? Let me find that file because I just closed it down without paying attention. Okay. So we have, there we go. So this is going to refer, this first one has to be blank. This is basically your input row that it comes in as. And then these are your variables, is what it is. So we're going to have 3 variables, an ID, a name, and an image. So we have an ID, which I had as an integer, a name, which I had as a string, and then an image, which is a texture 2D. Like that. Okay. And then we called them what is the key? Skill ID, skill name, skill image. So skill ID, did I have capitalized? I did have capital D. Okay. So that's really hard to read. And then skill name, and then skill image. There we go. Okay. So we should have it matching an ID, a name, and an image. An ID, a name, and an image. Okay, so we should be good. Our structure is set up now. So now we can go back and import. So I can just hit import again. And we'll do it like that. Now we have the right one to match it up with, which is our skills. Hit OK, and it should come in exactly like we expected. Nope, it's super simple. And like you see, it came in. There's my row number. You can see these are all the names. So, I mean, technically, let's say you wanted to do something else. So we're going to go with 13. We're going to go with awesome. We're going to go with 13 for the ID. We're going to go with awesome skill. And this is going to have the image fire. Now, you'll notice something here, though. On all of these, I have no actual images. Because the names here, fire, sword, slash, ice, and all that, those don't exist in my project. So it can't find those. If we were to, let's really quickly, because I'll probably have to show this too. Let's find, where'd my textures go? Textures, And then engine content. This is how I stole the stuff in the first place. So let's say we have, where's that? Let's call green dye here. We're going to call our green dye our fire image. Here we go. We'll call him fire. Okay. And we'll give him image fire. Okay, cool. So let's stop tabbing. Okay. So here is my 13th skill right here. If you'll notice, I did awesome instead of 13, just so you can see it. So we'll go ahead and export this one out as a CSV file. Overwrite the existing one. So I'm overwriting the file. If we go into here, you'll find I just overwrote it. So it's a brand new file. Well, it's, you know what I'm saying. The file has changed. There we go. So now if we go to our weapon structure, or skill structure, here we go, and we re-import it, which is hiding in here somewhere. Where is it at? Oh, no, data table, sorry. Our data table, that would be smart. And re-import the data table. You'll notice that it will ask us to find it. Oh, damn it, weapon. Okay. Let's rewind. Like I mentioned earlier, my brain's not here. It's been a long weekend. If you actually go to the proper data table file, which I've done after 4 tries, you'll notice it tells us where our source file is on the disk, and it tells us where it's at. So if we were to open this one, you'll notice it's still up to 11. We're still all this stuff, right? If we were to right-click on the proper file and re-import, it'll tell us it re-imported it. Now if we open it up, you'll notice we have 13 skills now, because I inserted this one earlier. And you'll notice we have our new one, awesome, ID 13, awesome skill, and you'll notice the pictures here. I simply set up that first row as my row name. So that's why when we looked at it, we have these right here. This one is your row name. That's all that matters. So keep that in mind. And yes, to answer the question, the image name is the name of the matching texture. So like, for example, I changed this to 13. We'll go ahead and we'll export it back out. That was the wrong file. Try it again. Comma separated. I'll go and export it out. You will notice something too, hopefully. So now that it's done, you'll notice that this still says awesome. It doesn't re-import automatically. We'll just go and re-import. It'll complain. It's done. And then, boom, it's updated. Now you will notice though, when I created this file, when I imported it in, it didn't ask me to name the file. This file by default is going to be the name of your file itself. So in this case, my CSV file was drag and drop skills. So my data table is called drag and drop skills, just for reference. This might be better for like skills data table. And you will notice you can name it later, and you can still re-import, and it will still keep the new name. What matters is if you look at the bottom there, it says source file, and it actually has a link to the original source file. Now, in the case that you do have to delete it for some reason, so let's say we don't have that there anymore, it's not going to update automatically, obviously. Unreal has no idea what you did when it's not working. And when you re-import, it's going to complain. But you can always point it to the new file name or the new file, and it's going to go ahead and update itself. You'll notice it's now pulling from the one drag and drop skills. So that's something that's useful. And then yes, in this case, we have nothing here. And if we go to our thing here, we have ice. So if we were to go ahead and texture, and we'll make this one ice. And we'll go ahead and copy it here, and we'll rename him ice. One thing to note too, it does not, okay, so yeah, let me show you that. So here's ice, for example. Let's move ice into the library folder. So our structure is our data table is next to our fire texture, but our ice texture is not. It's somewhere else completely. If we go into here, into our data table, you'll notice it's still not showing our ice texture. This information is only updated on the import. So we would have to re-import our table. And now if we look at it, once I open it up, you'll notice now it shows ice here. And you'll notice it shows it in the correct folder. So yes, as long as it's named the same somewhere in your project, it'll go ahead and automatically assign that. So it's really useful, as you see here, for images. Uh, as you can see, it makes it nice to make an external file. So your developer or whatever, because keep in mind there could be tons of other stats here too. So someone else can go in and just simply add skills to your game. And they can even set up the image automatically and everything, because it's all going to reference itself. This basically is the name, is how it works. And the type of structure value here. So this is just a name, obviously. It's just my column is named image. But inside our game itself, that column is a texture 2D, which we defined in our structure. So the way the texture 2D works is it just simply looks, as you can see here, just for the name. So it's something to keep in mind. You can reference other things too. I think you can reference other blueprints this way. Like if you had, I'm pretty sure you could, I don't know, let's find out. I don't feel like working on the other stuff. Let's see, Stefan, are there curve tables and blueprints? Yes, there are curve tables and blueprints. And they're friggin' hiding. Curve tables or curves? I guess I should have rephrased that. There are curves. I don't know, curve tables? I don't know, let's find out. I don't know, let's see. Let's pop this in here. There is a curve table. And then the type of table, I don't know how a curve table works. I guess we'll find out. Let's hit OK and see what happens. There you go. So there's a curve table. It takes in the two values. It'll take in probably your own name, and then the value is what it's going to take in for a curve table. I've never used a curve table. I know what they're for. I mean, they'd be great for like an experience table, for example, but I've never used them before. Okay, so this is what I'm curious about. Let's see. Let's make a new column. We'll call this, I don't know. We're going to call this actor type. We'll call it skill actor. We'll keep our same type of name. So we'll call it skill actor. Let's go back to here. Let's close and close and close and close. Let's find our structure for our skills. This one's going to be our skill actor. And I'm going to make this just simply an actor. And save this, and then we'll go back into our this one, go back to our skills data table. So now we have an actor as a new type, which it did not like. Am I crazy here? Did it not like? Oh, probably because this is pulled in from the other one. So what happens if we save? Let's see, file, download, comma separated. Drag and drop skills, yes. Re-import, it should complain because I renamed it. There we go. Too few cells on row 13. So let's find row 13. It's probably due to the fact that we have nothing in here would be my guess. It worked, even though it complained. But you can't pick an actor. You guys notice that? Is it just me? Oops, I gotta stop clicking on the wrong data tables. Okay, so let's try, what would be another actor I have in here? Can we do, what is this? This is a widget blueprint. You know, can I do that? That would be interesting. Because that might be a good, no, so it's not widget. What type is this? What type are these? Yeah, widget blueprint. User widget, that's right. I hate it's a user widget. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Seriously? Where's my user widgets? Oh, I can't set the why can't I set the defaults? I'm just playing with stuff at this point. Re-import, complain. Well, I don't think it allows you to do blueprints. That's what I was trying to see. I was trying to see if it could allow you to use a blueprint as one of the types in here. But it doesn't look like it's going to let me. It's complaining severely. Let's throw in this as a name and see what happens. I don't think this will fix it. This is not something I've ever messed with. So I figured it couldn't hurt to try it, right? Yeah, okay. So it doesn't look like it supports blueprints in here, which was what I was kind of curious about. Let's verify that though. Let's make a new data table by hand. So that would be a skill. And make a new row. Yeah, see, same thing. Even though we have the field in here for a widget, we can't actually assign a widget. So I have a feeling. Okay, so that was something I was curious about. You can do the same thing with sounds, by the way. Sounds is something that works. Pretty much anything where we're inside of our structure and we have something. So that would work. If this was a sound wave is what I did in my other example. Sound waves, as you can see, show up. So like one of the things I did is... This is another one. I have so many friggin' files in here. Well, I wish I could show you guys this, but I can't find it. Aw. Oh, wait. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. This is what I was looking for. This for my November game jam. When I made a game jam, I used a data table, as you can see here. And I used it for sounds. And I used it for values for subtitles. This is my subtitle CSV file. And it let me create these are my names. So these are my cue names, basically. But it let me know which text to show in my subtitle, the delay for each subtitle, and then the associated sound. So I could really easily just create everything in here in a separate file and then import it in and keep things up to date and map everything properly. So this is another good use for a data table. And yes, sounds work perfectly fine. You can import sounds without an issue. That's what I was trying to show and failed at. Pretty much anything where you can select it in here as a default is going to allow it to import in because it's just going to go by the name itself. So yeah, hopefully that's enough for the data tables. I know that was really honestly a lot of jibber-jabbering, but data tables are fun. And I think I'll cover them officially this week then. Cover what they are, importing files into data tables, the two nodes for the data tables. What else? I don't know, something else probably. Do you think a data table is a good place to put lines of text for conversation and such? I think data tables are a fantastic place to put it. I actually just literally showed you how I used it for subtitles. At the minimum, if we look at a data table, so let's say we're looking at this data table right here. At the minimum, a data table is a way to store or map or have a grouping of information. It's a great way of getting a lot of information into the engine from somewhere else as well. So for example, conversations, lines of text like you're mentioning. You could go in here and then I could go into here and I could do, you know, something like, okay, boss, we are ready to go. How are we going to go ahead and do this? Cool, not a problem. Now go ahead and write out the other 100 lines of text inside of here. Cool, not a problem. What if we wanted to search or change something? Let's say instead of boss, now you've decided it's going to be big boss. Now we're going to have to manually go through either inside your blueprint and go through all your variables you set up or your array and change boss to big boss. Or we're going to have to go through here and look through here and find every instance of boss and change it manually to, you know, now we've got an official name, okay, big boss. Or we have our spreadsheet. We hit find and replace every instance and export it out and we're done. I think it's a great place to put lines of text for conversations. I think it's got a fantastic use. And then you just map things up. You could have mapped up like, this is your line, and then this is what it says. And then all you have to do inside of your script or whatever it's doing it, make a generic blueprint that takes in a line name, which is just your row number, for example, your row name, and it pulls it out and then displays it on the screen. And you could have it set up kind of like how I did for my subtitles. One of your other things to go along with this could be the time. It's just a float variable that determines how long this piece of text is supposed to be on the string. And it allows you to easily keep things all in one place and allows you to easily adjust things. So you put in your text, you put in your guess, you have someone read it out. Yes, you can put sounds for the lines too. That is literally exactly how I did my subtitle one that I showed. This is literally my subtitle one. This is my key for my data table. This is the words that we saw on the screen. This is how long it stayed on the screen for, and this is the sound file to sync up with it. So when I played my subtitle, it just did, I said, okay, this went on the screen, it lasted for this long, and then this file started playing audio-wise. And that's how it worked. Yeah, it's a fantastic way of doing it. Mainly because I couldn't get the stupid built-in subtitle system to work properly. So I had to make my own. Okay, so we've been streaming for an hour and a half. We got absolutely nothing done on the live stream. The MMO thing, which I don't have a problem with. This is good. I needed to work on the work for this week anyways. The words that are still failing. Oh my gosh. I needed to work on the videos for this week anyways at some point. So being able to do them and then show some people some help works perfectly fine. I'm glad worked perfectly fine. I'm glad we did it. I'm glad I could help some people. There we go. I got the words out. It only took a while. So here's our default NPC. Let's set up some basic information. So we're going to go with basic. No, we're not going to call basic. That's the folder name I'm trying to do. So we'll go with name. Yeah, let's see if we can really quickly get our little dude out onto the thing. Name is going to be a string. We have our default dude. Let's give him the same overhead widget like we do for our enemies. No, because his overhead widget is probably just going to be the name and maybe two lines. Maybe we'll do something like name and merchant or just name. I think we'll do that. I'm still going to steal the widget though, because this is a good widget to steal. So we'll copy here. We'll call this one, still the overhead widget, except instead of the monster overhead widget is the NPC overhead widget. And you know what? We can even use this to put a little quest indicator too. So I think this will be fun. So here's our NPC. We're going to go ahead and nuke the health bar. And then we're going to have complaints over here. So let's see. Toggle is target. We'll keep that. Toggle has aggro. We'll keep that. Maybe we'll allow you to kill some NPCs. So that's fine. We don't have mana or health, so we can get rid of that. And then update monster name. So we're good there. The name will allow for two different things. So we're going to go with NPC name 1 text. And we're going to duplicate this, which there's no duplicate option, so that doesn't help. That's what I want. Okay, so we call this one NPC name 1. Oops. NPC name 1 text block. We'll name this one NPC name 2 text block. Because we might want something like Bill. Whoops, I probably should have named the actual text Bill instead of the variable name. Bill. And Bill is an awesome dude. There we go. See? So Bill is an awesome dude. That is his official title. You know what? I'm not going to make it where we can kill NPCs. You know what? So we don't need to worry about aggro. We just need to worry about targeting him. And we're not going to have him in the life bar. This spacer I'm actually going to put above, though. And then we're going to put an image above that. So, my image. We're going to think of this like our traditional MMO, where it's got like a question mark or something above the head. Because that's the easiest way of doing it. We'll center it like that. The image itself is going to be whatever we decide. For now, we will throw in something. There we go. Unreal Engine logo. Way too big. Let's make that a bit smaller. Yeah, let's go with something like that for now. Kind of silly, but why not? There we go. We'll go with that. Bill. He's an awesome dude with an Unreal Engine logo. That works for me. Good. Okay, cool. We'll go back to our character. He needs a widget. So we'll give him a widget. And this will be our overhead. This will be overhead spelled properly. Widget. Yes, fixing bugs. Yeah, being up at 4 a.m. is just bad in general. So now we have an overhead widget. We'll put it over his head. We need to make sure that it's properly pivoted. So we want halfway over and all the way down. So when we draw our widget, it should draw it properly. We want to draw it the desired size like that. And there we go. So that should work. Bill is an awesome dude. And we're good to go. We need to fix that though and put it into screen space. And there we go. So that should work. Let's toss a character into here. Let's see. We need our character. Oh man, he's too high. I'm trying to see him, but it's not cooperating. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see his name in this space. It has to be, there we go. Okay, so I could see it, but he fell through the ground. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure his name was going to show up was all. Cool. Let's see. Did I do any enemy attack animation? Technically, yes. Not a very good one, but I used the default wolf attack animation. It's very poor, to be honest. This is what we have right now. Assuming I didn't break my server again. There we go. Yeah, here we go. So that little snapping right there, that's their attack animation, I think. Or is that their idle animation? Nope, that's their idle animation. Never mind. I haven't set up the attack animation yet. That's just their idle animation. So no, I did not do the attack animation. The monster does have one, technically. If we go into the wolf. Yeah, the wolf does have one right there. I just don't have it hooked up yet. But it's not that hard. We use... the biggest thing is I don't have the enemy attacking right now. So I kind of can't have an attack animation. But inside of our... Once we set up our animation blueprint, because that's the biggest thing. I don't really have an animation blueprint or do I have one? Does the wolf have an animation blueprint? There's a skeletal mesh. He does have an animation blueprint, actually. He's already got one within his attack. So all I need to do is turn on the is attack, because the blueprint's already set up for me. And then he'll attack. I guess maybe we could really... Oh, man. Let's see if we can really quickly do this. I keep getting sidetracked with everything. So let's find our monster. Let's find our behavior tree. Yeah, see, we only have it set to move to right now. We don't have it set to actually do anything else. We would have to take, basically, we'd have to make a new task that's set to attack. Well, I'm not really going to do much here. Let's see, this is a task, right? Yeah, I just do a new task. And this will be, we need to find where it's at. So where's our new task? This will be, what do we got? Task, attack target. Yeah. Okay, and this one will just be, let's see if we remember this. I haven't done this, obviously. We haven't worked on AI in a little bit. Task, I just want the task to execute. So we should be fine here. We'll grab the actor, we'll cast this to the monster base. And then we'll get his animation blueprint. This is me guessing, by the way, on all of this stuff. because I have not done this stuff in a while. Do I have to cast this? Probably. Let's see. That should give me that one. Then set is attacking. Okay. I think this will set him to attacking when he gets to me. If I set up my task for task attack target. I think that's what this will do. I guess we'll find out. He's not going to actually do anything, but I think he'll turn to his attack animation once he gets to me. Well, that was a good thought. Apparently it's not correct, though. These are all on the server right now, which kind of makes it a bit of an issue to debug. It should work, though, right? This is who owns this behavior tree. This is my monster. Grab the mesh, grab the anim instance. I'm wondering if this is failing. Oh, ha. I didn't build this out. This is still sitting on the client, not the server. So that would probably be a small issue. I always forget about that. So let's build this out. Let's try this again. I've always keep forgetting we're working in a server, a dedicated server environment. We can't just test without building. Still don't know why I'm getting that error, that warning. No clue. Unreal was just like, hey, we're going to start giving you an error because we felt like it. I was like, okay, nothing I can do about it. Okay. Let's try this again, shall we? Okay, that did look right, right? It did attack me. It didn't finish. It did look like that one attacked me, right? Oh, man. I'm pretty sure I know why, it did look, no? Didn't play the blueprint? No? Aw, I thought it looked like it attacked me. Okay. Yeah, so I had a feeling, so I also had the feeling that I didn't finish this execute. Because this, without this, it's not going to continue following the player. So I had a feeling that was it. But this definitely didn't work. So did not work. Let me let's see if we can see what's going on here. I have a couple guesses, but I don't. Okay, just again for the record, in case no one knows, I don't work with animations much. I barely work with them. I'm lucky when I'm grabbing for an example. Actually, there's something inside of it that I can use. I can figure it out. I can fumble through it, but I'm not an artist. And we haven't worked on AI in about 3 weeks at this point, so I kind of forgot how AI works. This is one reason why trying to be a generalist can bite you in the ass, because the amount of knowledge you need to try to be a generalist is so much that you have to retain at any given point that it can take a little while to kick yourself in the butt back into working properly. Okay, okay, I just want to make sure he's... I totally messed something up, didn't I? And the server's not giving me any errors. It's my behavior tree. See, the problem is because this behavior tree is on the server, I can't tell if it is firing off properly. Which is super annoying with the way we've got this set up. Oh, is that the... Is that the... No, that's not the attack animation, right? Because I have a feeling... Where'd my wolf go? Yeah, the attack animation is very pronounced, so it's definitely would be working. I'm expecting this to work. If we toggle is attacking, our event, where's it at? Our state machine basically will switch between idle and not idle, assuming it's working properly. Now I've definitely done something because our AI behavior tree no longer fires off properly and comes back, but this should work. Basically, it moves to the target. Once it's done, this entire thing rechecked, and we got aggro check and all that stuff. But this never... I'd assume... Is this even firing? What if we did this? I may have disabled the AI, by the way. I may have disabled this at one point, and that's why it's not working, and I can't remember if we did disable it or not. I know that's a silly thing to say, but with us working on so many different things at once, which is usually not a good idea, stuff tends to stop working properly. Okay, so let's try this. If this doesn't work this time, we're going to go back to what we were doing, and I'll work on the animation stuff separately. I thought it would be super simple to implement, but I don't want to take away time from the other thing if it's not going to be super simple. This could be a simple case of I disconnected the AI at some point, and we need to re-enable it, and I don't want to go debugging through that in the meantime. I also realized we could probably... This is probably a good example of using our playground. Dropping our character into the playground, dropping that character, the wolf, onto the playground itself and letting it run. You know what? I just thought about that. That would probably work. We could probably test this wolf without the server, because the AI should run regardless of the server. Yeah, okay. So this is failing. We're not even getting a finish. Yeah. So I'm going to, oops, not make a new folder. We're going to go back to our playground setup. Oh, actually, I don't even need to do that here. Let's grab our play. Whoops, stop it. Okay. Can I have my player? Thank you. World settings. This will be our MMO game mode. This should load up our MMO character. Grab ourselves a monster. Grab ourselves a wolf. And he'll be there. And then we need a nav mesh, or else this entire thing is going to be pointless. And move our nav mesh down. Hit what? U, I, O, P, P. I always forget which button it is that does it. I know if that's silly, but I do forget which button it is, like, all the time. Okay. Now we should have a basic nav mesh. Okay. So let's run this. Let's grab our monster AI behavior tree. And there we go. Okay, so it is running. Okay, cool. So this is running. This is failing, so we don't have aggro. So that's expected because I'm not close enough. Now this is running. Okay, so this is... We're getting stuck. So we are getting stuck right here. Our attack target task is failing for some reason. But I don't know how it's failing. And I didn't see anything on the screen, right? So let's debug it, shall we? Let's see, let's get out of range. I don't think... Oops, let's no debug object, there we go. I don't think I can reset aggro by going out of range. Yeah, okay. There we go. So we receive our execute. This is our object. Our object. Oh, crap. See, we did this before. You know what? Okay. So we literally did this exact same thing before. I keep forgetting when you're receiving the execute in a task, the thing it gives you is the controller, not the actual actor. So we're just going to replace this with an execute AI, which will give us the actual pawn. Yeah. Yep. We did this before too. And look, there's the attack animation. That's what we were expecting. Basically, the execute AI, the execute node, not the execute AI, returns the controller, which we then cast to the monster base, which then failed. So yeah. And I personally would like to blame Epic for that one, because that node returns an actor, which I think is stupid because it should return a controller. But no, it returns an actor. Okay, cool. So this is good. This code is now good and it actually works. It did work the first time. We just failed way back here. So we're good there. We can flip these back. So now it'll move and then attack when it gets next to it. This one right here, if we don't have aggro, what we can do is shoot. We basically want, we would need another decorator here. Well, we were just trying to the attack animation for now. Okay, so now it should chase me, and the attack animation should be playing when it gets to me. There we go. Now the attack animation will continue playing because of the fact that I don't shut it off. But the point was we got it to chase us, and once it gets to us, then it attacks. Okay, so we got that working. So we're good. That's what I was trying to do. Cool. So you learn something every day. Actually following the instructions works. So, but for the person who was asking DD in terms of the attack animation, all we did there was our wolf has animations. So in this case, it's got a melee animation, which I'm using for the attack, and a idle animation. Now to control those animations, it has an animation blueprint. And this is just using a simple state machine that says, hey, idle. If someone tells you to attack, so it flips this little boolean inside of the animation blueprint, go to our attack animation. If you're in the attack animation and then you're no longer attacking, so it's going to be this one over here, go back to your idle state. So basically by flipping this on or off, we toggle our attack animation. That's all we do. And inside of our behavior tree, right here, all I'm doing is say, hey, if you have aggro, make sure you have a valid target. If you have a valid target, move to it, and then now we're going to attack. And all the attack does is say, hey, grab whoever we're controlling, the actual pawn itself, grab the animation instance, so that's the animation blueprint, cast it to the wolf blueprint. So this is going to be a serious issue right here, because this node is not going to be generic, but for our testing purposes, we'll fix it later. But basically, go ahead and turn on attack, and that's where we get our attack animation. To fix this, this is going to be an issue right here because our attack animation is only inside of our wolf blueprint, which is a problem. We probably should... We'll fix it. We'll fix it. I'm not worried about it for now. That's just one of those things to worry about. There we go. Cool. So now inside the actual game itself, we should be able to easily test. We should have someone chasing me. And then when it gets to me... Once it gets to me... Seriously? Does that look like it's attacking? No, it does not look like it's attacking. Did I actually build the project out? I just realized I might not have. 1853. I did build the project out. Yeah. Oh well. I don't know why it's not working. We'll figure it out. We know it's supposed to work. I'm not worried about it for now. That's one of those things that's the basics of it, and we'll figure it out later. We are in the middle of trying to make our NPCs, and we're failing miserably at doing that. So here's our world map. Let's slap an NPC into our world map so we can actually test it. Okay, our NPC does not need a camera, so we can get rid of that. There we go. We'll go ahead and turn him around. Our NPC is going to have its name on the widget, so this will be begin play. So I'm going to make a new customized events graph, just so we can keep our stuff separate from the movement code. Technically, actually, you know what? I just realized that these are NPCs. These are not monsters. These are NPCs. They're going to be in static points. I'm not going to give them movement code. That's what I was trying to figure out. So we're going to get rid of all their movement code. They're just going to be dummies who stand there. I probably don't even need them to be characters, to be honest. They could just be actors. But I already copy-pasted, so we're going to go with that. Begin play. We're setting the name up right now. That's what I'm trying to do. Let's see. So we're going to grab our overhead widget. We are going to get the widget. So that'll give us the actual widget that we put in there. We're going to get the widget again and actually use the get widget node. We're going to cast it to our overhead widget for our NPC. So this will give us the actual widget that's on top of us. And then we're going to set the name. Name? What did I call it? So what did I call that node? Update. It was probably update name, wasn't it? Yeah, I like to do update. We're going to rename this to update NPC name, or else I'm going to get super confused. And update NPC name is actually going to take in 2 lines. So name and name 2. And we're just going to call it name and name 2. Name 1 and name 2, like that. Make it easy. Because we have that one, and then we're going to grab... Let's see. We'll need the original name when we're targeting, right? That's what we had set the original name for? Yeah, okay. So we'll keep that like that. So we're going to copy these. We're going to paste these right here. We're going to replace text block 1 with text block 2. So we can change both of them. And then this will be the name 2. Like that. There we go. So now we should be able to set the name of the NPC when it spawns into the world, which is right here, which we need to refresh the node. Yeah, because the node technically changed. I guess that won't work. It should have worked, but it didn't work. There we go. Cool. And this will be name and then name 2. Man. All I was trying to do was put a name 2. Seriously. Name 1. There we go. So now if we did this right, and we'll call him SpongeBob, and he will be Krabby Patty, just freaking, what are they? Cook? Fry Cook? Fry Cook. Man, I can't remember what his freaking title is. He's not a chef. Fry Cook? I'm gonna go with Fry Cook. I can't friggin' remember the name, his official title. I know that's weird, but again, that's just, yeah. Okay, cool. And this stuff will be set when we spawn the NPC in appropriately. Actually, we'll make these editable. So we'll populate our, I think we'll populate the, you know what? I think we'll populate the NPCs by hand is what we'll do. Head Fry Cook. Okay, so he was a Fry Cook. I was right. I couldn't remember. It's been like 2 days since I watched SpongeBob. I couldn't remember what his official title was. Squidward's not a problem. He's the cashier. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're gonna run through, build ourselves up the new server. If we did this properly and the world map saved out properly, then we should now have an NPC in the world with the proper name above them. And then we're gonna wrap up for the day. We're at 2 hours. We didn't get a lot done with the live stream, but I was able to get the example project set up for data tables and help someone out, so that was good. We played a little bit with physics, which, you know, I don't think we really got a lot done on that one. I don't know a lot with physics. Hopefully we at least help him out a little bit. But I do need to spend a lot more time with physics, so that's kind of like a shortcoming on my end. But if we get some form of project in our actual live stream, it would be helpful. I think getting our NPCs stubbed out at least is a goal. There we go. See? SpongeBob the Fry Cook, and that works. His name is way, way, way too small, though. All of these names are way too small. Oh, crap. The wolf's attacked me. I don't think I have my... Whoop. I don't think my code for disengaging is working properly. Nope, he's going to chase me forever. Okay, cool. There we go. Obviously, we don't have the code in place to shut off names for our fry cook, so we need to fix that. But it was able to properly work, and we'll be able to tag people shortly, and we'll go with that. You know, I think I'll fix that, the name stuff. That was, let's see, where did we hide that at? Event tick, here we go. So I'm going to steal the event tick from our monster and put it into our base character. Then we're going to fix it. So let's see. Ooh, I also, ooh, crap. Oh, crap on it. Okay. Let me finish fixing this, then I'll tell you the crap part. Because I just realized a big problem. Well, let's go back to the chat. Would you happen to know how to combine something like a text renderer with a decal so I could paint text on uneven walls and stuff? The only thing I could think of is, can you use the render targets on a decal? The new render target system where you can basically draw on a render target. Kind of like how they did the water example and the spray paint example. Because they've done that before, but it's using render targets on a flat surface. Render targets, render textures. Maybe render textures. I get those words confused half the time. If you could apply that to a decal, then that would work. I just don't know if you can, is the problem. Decals are deferred. It might work. That's the only thing I could think of. If you grab like the oh, where'd it go? Here's my projects. There we go. I guess I'll remember the name here in a second, because I'll have to pull it up. It's gotta be render targets, right? Well, we have here. Where's our example map? Man, I gotta remember what it was called. Of course, can't remember what it's called. Yeah, I know it's in here. Blueprints, HUDs, character rendering, cloth, decals, advanced, effects, geometry editing. Is it this one? The experimental materials? It's probably this one. No, it's not loading up very quickly. Okay, nope, it's not this one. Well, crap, where's it at? Advanced, instances, nodes, properties, math, matinee, morph targets. Man. Well, there is a really cool map in here somewhere that I apparently can't find. Crap. Oh, render to target. Blueprint is what they called it. Yeah, I mean, because here is... Because you're... Whoops, I lost my thing. There we go. You have this example. I mean, this is just... You have this. And this is your... Using a render texture, right? Yeah, render to target is what it is. It allows you to basically put something on a render texture. It's really friggin' complicated. I wish I knew the exact way it worked. but it uses, here we go. It uses render targets to basically draw something, and it's grabbing what I'm writing, and you might be able to combine two materials with it. It's the render target is what you're looking at, and it basically allows you to put something on something else, and and then your actual this right here is just a material that displays your render target, basically the one that you created. And if this can be a so we can find out, can this be a, oh, this thing is really weird looking. Okay, so I was looking for the entire thing. I was failing miserably. Defer decal. Let's see. Using defer decal name to use the blend while translucent. That does say translucent, right? Wait. What? Material using the default name use blend while translucent. Oh, blend mode, not. Even though it says blend mode, it needs another blend mode change. That's just really ridiculously stupid. Yeah, so I mean, technically this works as a decal. Let's see. This isn't set up very well, but obviously, it's trying to get it to, whoops, work on multiple surfaces. That's not gonna work. This is about the only thing I could think of is as a render target. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this would even help at all, but I mean, a render target allows you to render out to a material directly with a modified input, and you might be able to pull in what you're looking for. The only other thing, like you're mentioning, is making the text as a texture in Photoshop, then making that into material used as a decal. That might be your only other choice. You basically have a decal for each letter and have them put it on there. More than likely, that's how most of your stuff works in the first place. If you look at games that support graffiti or decals based on the walls, it's from a preset pool of textures. And your letters and stuff are a preset texture. More than likely, you're going to have to end up doing that. But I mean, this works for something. It's really complicated. I don't know the information about it because I can't figure it out. I'm not an artist. But it basically allows you to modify a texture and then put it onto a material. So it's definitely got uses, and it does work as a decal. We just saw that. I don't know how well it works as a decal, but it didn't complain. So it's a possibility. And if it doesn't work, let us know and we'll be all bummed out. Okay, I fixed it. This is the event tick that allows it to show visibility, so we're good there. Yep, I think I'm going to grab our widget though and just increase the text a little bit. We're going to go with 19. I'm going to go with something like that. And then by default, I'm going to set this to hidden. There we go. I'm going to build this out one last time, make sure everything worked, and then we're done for the day. I was trying to do that, and I kept getting distracted. Because why not? I do appreciate everyone hanging out, though. I'm going to work on wrapping this up right now while we're finishing this up. I appreciate everyone hanging out. And thank you for spending the time. My videos are on YouTube, they're on Twitch, and they're on Beam. This video will end up on YouTube after a couple hours, so if anyone wants to watch the archive, that's fine. Other than that, tomorrow is Epic Day, so let's see what Epic is planning for tomorrow's video. Because I didn't check. Community forums, events. Oh, looks like something about animation. No, wait, I saw the word animation. Oh, because that's an old one. That's funny. So tomorrow looks like it is a getting started with VR tutorial. Zach is back. Zach is a fantastic person to watch. More info getting started with UE4. He's talking about getting started with VR based on the ECGC talk with extra commentary, examples, and live Q&A. Okay. It was supposed to be Andrew, but it's going to be Zach. No offense to Andrew, but Zach is awesome. Bummed out, but still, it's good. So if you're interested in VR, it looks like they're going to be kind of like a getting started with VR stream tomorrow. Even if you're not interested in VR, Zach is always amusing to watch because he's a very good presenter. Wednesday, I'll be back. We're going to continue with what we've been doing. We'll have live stream MMO stuff. Hopefully we can actually do something with our NPCs. But that does all depend on the people who are watching. Feel free to ask questions. I'll try to help out as best as I can. Obviously, as you saw today, there are lots of things that I do not have information on. But I can try my best. If we can help people out, we can. If we can't, we'll see if we can find them a source. Other than that, again, we work on the live stream stuff. That will be Wednesday, approximately 10 o'clock Pacific. That is roughly 2 hours before now. 2 hours and like 10 minutes if you want to get kind of exact. We should check our project right now to make sure it actually worked before we finish up. So one last time, let's make sure we end with a working project. So we're going to go ahead and hit play. We'll log in. We should have SpongeBob on the left. And if we get far enough away, SpongeBob's name should disappear. There we go. And you see our wolves are disappearing also. And there we go. Now, SpongeBob does not implement clicking. So for example, if I click on a wolf, I can target it and it'll show up and we'll get the little indicator there. SpongeBob as a NPC does not support that. We never hooked up the interface for that. So we'll have to work on that eventually. Wasn't too worried about it. We have a name, we have a setup. Oh, we have a character in the world. What we're gonna have to start off with, so let me finish it off with this, is right now, SpongeBob is in the world. So if we go to our map and we open up a world map, SpongeBob is spawned into the world, which means he is going to be part of the world when the world map is loaded. What that means, and this is something that we need to design around, because we're actually going to run into this problem in the future. We technically ran into it with our monsters, but we worked around it. So now we're going to have to figure out the proper way of doing it for the rest of our stuff. The server has a copy of the world map, and the server has a copy of SpongeBob. The client, when he loads up the world map, he gets everything that's inside of our world map, which means he's going to get a copy of SpongeBob as well. But is it the same copy? Oh, crap. You know what? I just realized... Okay, so much for ending. I'm curious about this. Maybe if someone knows, we won't have to figure it out ourselves. But because this item's in the world already, and it's not spawned in by the server as authoritative, do we have two different copies of SpongeBob? Is my question here. Do we have a client version of SpongeBob and a server version of SpongeBob? And are they different? Would it matter? Yeah, let's really quickly figure this out. You know what? This is a good question because it's going to lead into if we need to do any more work. The nice thing is this is really simple to figure out. We are going to grab here's SpongeBob. We're going to grab our NPC. So this is our NPC code. In the begin play, we're going to go down here and you know what? Actually, we can disconnect this and we are going to just put our own little stuff in right here. So we're going to do a switch as authority. And this will run basically on either the client or the remote. And then for the remote, we're going to do... no, it won't be locally controlled by anything, so that won't matter. So we're going to try just doing two different things right here. Grabbing this stuff. This is just temporary. We're going to play with it. We'll do this. And then paste it again. We'll do this. We're going to get rid of these. We'll get rid of these. We're going to... no. We don't even need to do this. This is really silly. We're just going to do print. And then we're going to... Yep, okay. I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some data stuff just to make sure here. Okay. Yeah. Let's see if we can do this. So we're gonna set. Oop, that's a getter. This is my thought. Oh, that's name 2. I'm getting close to what I wanted. We're gonna set SpongeBob's name here. There we go. So Bill and SpongeBob like this, and then we're going to print out the local name 1. Let's see. Game done 5 a.m. Well, that's good. It is 5 a.m., which is a bummer, but at least you're done with the game. Hopefully it doesn't have any issues. Okay, so what I'm curious about this is, am I going to get SpongeBob twice, or will I get Bill at all? The reason I mentioned that is technically the authority over this item is the client if the client spawns this in when they start the game, because the client is the one who spawned it in. That's why it's kind of really tricky working with the authority switch, because technically a client can have an authority. But our biggest question here is, because this item exists in the world at spawn, at creation, and joining, technically how many versions of this character do we have running? And I don't know the answer to that one. I also realized it didn't friggin' save out, so that's annoying. This might not even have the correct versions in it. Let's find out. Yeah, that's what I thought. Dang it. The server. There we go. Okay. Client 1 Bill is what I got. And I didn't get anything on the server. So I got Bill and Awesome Dude. Oh, that's because that's our default. Isn't that our default? Oh, you know what? That is our default, right? Bill? No, SpongeBob. Oh. Where did Bill and Awesome Dude come from? Oh, wait, that's the default on our widget. Never mind. Oh my god, that did not help. Yeah, duh. Okay, sorry. Brain fart. Okay. Well, I'll close these for now. Okay. So I had Bill print out. I didn't have SpongeBob print out at all. So that makes me worried about something, especially since name isn't replicated. Oh, I think I know the easy way of getting around this. Okay, I think I know the easy way of doing this. Custom event. If anyone thinks this is wrong, let me know. Run on server. Okay. So my idea is we are going to, we'll kill the server once it cooperates, and then we'll build out and we'll go back to here. So this is my thought process on this one. The server itself is going to print out its name. It doesn't seem to work because it doesn't like me. The client is going to print out Bill, and then it's going to run the run on server node. That's going to execute on the server version of this character and destroy itself. And then I also just realized that I had no way of testing it once it's destroyed on the server. So that was silly. My idea was if the one on the server gets destroyed, but we don't see it disappear on our end, that means they're not linked up. If it does get destroyed and ours disappears, then they are linked up, which is what I care about. What we care about is if the two of them are linked together at all. So, for example, if I do something on the server, I don't have to worry about replicating it to the client version automatically. That's our goal. Okay, yeah. So, if you noticed here, Bill is still here. That was my concern. Because if this was spawned on the server and we destroyed the server version, then Bill should be gone. Assuming, of course, this code is running, because I always forget to debug. But I'd be 99% sure. That's what we're going to run our test for. So run on server, and then this should run on the server. What we need to do is, after it runs on server, this is the client version, we're going to delay 2 seconds, and then we are going to run on server again. And this should not work. This should fail because of the fact that there is nothing there. But I don't know how we get an error, because technically this is only going to replicate to the server, but that won't exist, so I don't think I'll get an error message. I don't know. Never done it before. Not trying to leave the stream running longer, and I do apologize if everyone's bored or something like that right now, but this is one of those things where I'm kind of curious. It's definitely useful to know for anyone who's working with networking. I have a feeling I'm correct on my assumption that we have 2 different versions of this character, which I'm not happy about. So we'll have to... well, what will we have to do? Put a proper system in place for it, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't want to start working on a system if that system isn't needed. That's a good way of saying it. Okay. Yeah, see, there's no way of knowing. I get no friggin' stupid server not giving me any print strings. Oh, I know what I could do. Wait, no, yes, no, yes, no. So if anyone has any ideas on how to properly test this, feel free to let me know. If not, I have a feeling what we're going to end up doing is we're basically going to make an NPC spawner. Like we created our monster spawner. Our monster spawner was designed where the monster spawner could be in the world. And then if it's a server, the server handles our spawns and it spawns our monsters. I also just realized we never finished that properly. Give me a second. This is what I meant. Right? Wait. Did I? Okay, now I'm friggin' confused. Wait, it's down here? No. Where's the friggin'... Okay, now I'm super confused. Oh, wait. Hold on. Nope. Okay, now I'm definitely confused. No? Huh. Yeah, here's my monster spawner right here, right? In the world map. Everyone sees it, right? I'm not the only one that's crazy here. Monster spawner and our NPC base character. They're both inside the world map. Our login screen, we log into the game. And there's our NPC, but where's our monster spawner? Huh. Anyone else at all confused by this? Huh. The only reason I mentioned this is I thought I put in code to automatically kill the monsters. Maybe. I thought I put in code to auto kill the monster spawner. if it was on the client, but the code's not here. But we're also seeing the fact that that monster spawner is not showing up. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. I feel stupid right now. I feel so freaking stupid right now. Let me summarize my stupidity as I literally walk through exactly how I felt 2 weeks ago when we had this exact same problem. I feel like an idiot. Okay, so the question before with the monster spawner was, how do we make it where the monster spawner is only on the server? It's not on the client. And we wanted to know how we could take care of it. Well, the game itself has that already built in. It's this option right here. This option loads, if this is checked, then the actor is loaded on the network client during the map load. This is what duplicates characters over the network automatically. That's what that option does, and I completely forgot about it. So by having that unchecked, you don't have this thing automatically spawn on the clients. It'll only spawn on the server, which was the goal. That's why we weren't seeing this on the server, because I forgot about that checkbox. That was like 2 weeks ago. I literally forgot about it. That's how long it's been since we've been working on stuff like that. That's just really friggin' funny. I'm sorry. Okay, so if I do this now, I'm a dum-dum. Oh, I need to do that too, so we're gonna have to cancel this. So and you know, this is not the first time it bit me in the butt either. So for anybody who's working with networking and replication, and this bit me in the butt on Friday when I forgot, when we were doing an example. You have to remember that replication is an actual option on the actor itself. Replication is not turned on by default, for example. That's what bit us on the butt Friday. And replication has options to determine who gets it when things are replicated. That's what we kind of forgot about. Well, that's what I forgot about. And no one mentioned it. Everyone else forgot, apparently. Okay, so now hopefully we'll be able to successfully have, yeah, there we go. So you'll notice now we don't have SpongeBob on this side. SpongeBob is on the server only because, well, yeah, it's actually technically SpongeBob is on the server only. And he's probably doesn't even exist anymore because we ended up doing this right here. So if we were to, yeah, because right here, I have a blueprint message, which no one can see, so we'll go here. So right here, I have the blueprint message. So here's SpongeBob on the server itself, right here. That's him saying SpongeBob, which is right here. So yeah, we didn't need to worry about any of this other crap. We didn't need to worry about any of this other stuff. All we needed to worry about was the fact that we need the proper replication options of our character right here. Right here. So we don't need to worry about replicate movement. Do we want him to be loaded up, and do we want him to replicate? So we do want that. So I think this might give us half of what we want. Let's find out here in a second. And then we'll be done. Hello, Tom. You got here right at the end of the stream for the day. I'm sorry about that. I should have ended 30 minutes ago, but I got distracted by a potential bug. Then I realized it's not a potential bug, and then I realized that I forgot what I was doing 3 days ago, and now we're finishing up the stream. Do you use the Infinity Blade Grasslands? I technically am not using any of the stuff in this project. Oh, sorry. I have used the Infinity Blade Grassland stuff before for another project. We're using parts of it from here. Yes. I guess if we want to get exact, we are using some of the Grassland stuff. Right now, we're not using anything. We're just using some characters for now. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's what I was checking on. And then now if we go back in and we do net load on client, now it should load up properly. So we're good. We are good for the day. I'm shutting everything down for the server wise. I feel silly. The last like 30 minutes of that stream was me forgetting the work we did on Friday. I feel extremely silly for that. Like extremely silly. But yeah, what's the question about the Infinity Blades grassland stuff, Tom? And then we'll work on logging out for the day. If you had a question. Because yeah, I do have the where's it at? Infinity Blade assets. I do have them all for usage. And the actual project right here, we're using just the enemies from it for now. I don't know what we're actually using in production in terms of assets. I'll probably steal some of the Infinity Blade stuff though. So yeah, I'm gonna work on wrapping this up. If Tom has any more questions, I'll answer them in. I'll import the landscape. Infinity Blade doesn't have a landscape as far as I know. Infinity Blade just has. No, Stefan, now I have it set up where the NPC is working correctly. The NPC is on the server and replicated to the client. It is working fine. I just forgot about those options is all I did. So if you're talking about this, I'm assuming one of the example maps, I don't believe it has a terrain. It just uses set pieces to build it out. But I haven't loaded these up in a while. I don't think any of them use the terrain. Oh look, it's loaded. Apparently I haven't opened this example in a while. You shouldn't have to edit any of this stuff in Blender. All of this stuff is created and imported into a successful Unreal Engine project. You can just migrate it out and put it inside the current project you're using. Yeah, you shouldn't have to do anything inside of Blender or any other digital content creation system. Okay, 98%. This is the longest 99% I have had. There we go. Oh, now it's compiling shit. Wait. That certainly doesn't look like it loaded it up. There we go. Okay. So I don't think we have a terrain. Oh, we do have a terrain stack mesh actor. But it's just this right here. Let's move it up. Yeah, this is the only terrain they're actually using. Ooh, it went way too far up. The only terrain they're actually using in this game is this little piece right here that they were using for hiding this part. Everything else, all of these are all static meshes. This is all a floor block. This is a floor block right here that you can see. These are all just pieces. These are all literally Lego pieces. They snap together pieces, you can see right here. That's all they are. Everything in here is a decoration or, you know, like this is a corner. This is a block on top of that. This one right here is a block on top of that. They're all just set pieces is all they are. This stuff is rocks, resized and rotated. There's a piece of the castle. There's a parapet. There's, oh, I guess that would be a building. You know, these are all just decorations. And all this, these are just, this right here is the same rock as this, just these are bigger and rotated. Everything can be migrated from inside of here. You just find what you want. For example, the ruins, asset actions migrate, and oh, I don't want to save it. It'll grab everything inside of it, and then you tell it where to migrate it to. So yes, you can migrate it to another project. You don't have to go into blueprints or anything. If you want this exact map, exactly how it's set up, just right-click on the ruins, asset actions, migrate. You don't have to worry about this. It won't pop up. It might pop up, but anyways, I made changes. It'll tell you everything that's connected to this map. You'll hit OK. You'll tell it where you want to put it. Make sure you put it in the content folder of wherever you want to put it, and it'll come right in. Yep, so that's how you migrate it to any other project. And you can migrate anything. So if I wanted, like for example, when I grabbed that wolf, I grabbed my wolf and I did migrate on the wolf, and it gave me everything associated with the wolf. That's how I ended up getting the skeletal mesh, the materials, the textures. When I wanted the animations, I grabbed the animations I wanted and I migrated those. And it gave me everything associated with that. So I made sure it did everything. And if there's any duplicates, it'll just let you know. So yeah, migrate. That's how you get stuff from one project to another in Unreal Engine. But yeah, there's no actual terrain inside here. It's all stuff. You get the exact project. You get this map. Everything associated with this map is what's going to show up. So you'll get everything inside this map. Everything, basically you'll get this stuff right here. Yeah. Well, there's no terrain in here though, so you have to keep that in mind. If you're considering this stuff terrain, like these rocks and that, these aren't terrain. These are static meshes. These are just really big rocks, is all they are. This is a rock scaled up to 5 by 5 by 6. The only actual literal terrain in here is this little piece right here to go up. That's the only piece of terrain in this entire example. That part right there to right here. But everything will come in. The materials will come in. The meshes will come in. The settings will come in. It'll look just like this in the new project. Or the other project, I should say. No, yeah, migrating, the point of migrating is to take the existing stuff and put it into other stuff. So it should work perfectly fine. You shouldn't have an issue with it. And with that, we will wrap up today. I went over again because I keep forgetting how to finish. I appreciate everyone hanging out. I've already said it before. I'll just quickly say it again. YouTube, Twitch, and Beam. There's also Twitter and email. All that stuff's in the YouTube section. Feel free to ask for requests. I'll try my best to help out as I can. Tomorrow is an epic stream on VR. Wednesday will be my stream. It'll be approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes before now, since we went way after again. Other than that, appreciate everyone hanging out and chatting. I will see everyone on Wednesday. The stream will simply go quiet for about 30 seconds or so and then end.